Good evening. It is Tuesday, November 9th at 6:30, and we have a full council dais, so I am calling this meeting to order. The City of Bastrop reserves the right to reconvene, recess, or realign the regular session or called executive session or order of business at any time prior to adjournment. I'm so excited I can hardly stand it. We have the MENA posse, and I'm telling you, this is a posse. When Coach Thompson gets a posse together, she gets a posse together. But Councilmember Peterson would like to share some information with all of you before we move forward. Councilmember Peterson?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm glad to see all you youngsters here tonight from MENA Elementary, but I just want to share a little bit with you. When I graduated from MENA High School. So thanks for carrying on the tradition of MENA. Thank y'all very much.
Excellent, excellent. Yay. I see another one of our friends in the audience, Lisa Holcomb, and I know that she is always looking for kids that want to be in plays. So parents and kids, Lisa Holcomb is always drafting folks to come test out their theater chops. So Sunday, if you'd like to come forward with the kids, if you're in the MENA posse, if you would please stand up and come forward. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would please stand, we will be saying the pledges. Okay, posse, you're going to turn around and face this wonderful audience, and you're going to smush together like you like each other, and Colin and your parents are going to take lots of pictures. So kind of, you're going to have to get a little bit of depth. Susan's going to help you. Let's give these kids a round of applause. Okay, Miss Smith, you got them where you want them? All right. Colin, you good? All right. Oh, moms and dads, look at your mom or dad, or whoever's taking pictures of you that's pointing at you. Look at them. All right, thank you guys so very much. Really appreciate it. You guys can return to your seats, and if you will all remain standing, Minister John Eason will be giving us the invocation tonight. Minister Eason?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. Father, I just want to first say thank you for allowing us to live in such an awesome city, in an awesome state, and an awesome country. We can't say thank you enough for the prosperity and the blessings that you have poured out upon this city over the last few years. And many have had the opportunity to be blessed and to prosper in ways that they could have only previously dreamed of. And Lord, I want to say also that we ask for the spirit of wisdom and the spirit of knowledge and the spirit of counsel upon those that you've chosen to lead this city. And Lord, I just ask that every decision that's being made and every purpose that's trying to be established would be in the Spirit of Christ. Lord, that we would be serving the whole and the most that can benefit from our decisions. And so, Lord, I just ask that this council would have the same spirit of mind and purpose for our city. And, Lord, that every purpose that is in agreement with your purposes would be established. And we thank you. And I thank these men and women for their sacrifice. and their time that they serve. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen.
You may be seated. And if you're in the posse, you may go if you want. Thank you very much, Pastor Easton. Appreciate it. See you soon. Coach Thompson tells me there is a 5K run on December 4th, and she would just love for everyone to join her and the posse for the 5K. So we can see those kiddos again. All righty, Colin, we're going to get going with my mayor's report. And before we get started, I have 2 items to share with you. I am a part of the Vote Center Advisory Committee for Bastrop County, and I just wanted to share with everyone that the county is applying for a countywide polling place program, and what that would mean is you don't have to vote only at your polling place. You can vote anywhere in Bastrop County, and they'll know what ballot you're supposed to get because they'll know what precinct you're in and you're able to vote. There's a lot of rules about that. You have to, once you do that, it real time instantaneously knows that you vote because contrary to popular belief, you can vote early, but you cannot vote often. So they'll be keeping track of all of that. But a countywide polling place, I think, would be a fantastic idea. Council, you unanimously approved the new voting system, and that is a key part of being able to get to that countywide polling place. So keep your ears and eyes open, and we'll be sharing that information. That application has to be submitted to the state, and they only allow a certain number of counties to do that. So that's kind of a new thing for Bastrop County. They've never applied for that before. And then I also wanted to make sure that the public was aware that on Thursday, November 11th at 5 o'clock at the Bastrop Convention Center, the Farm Street Village developers have a meeting scheduled with the surrounding property owners, neighborhood owners, and really anyone who's interested in the project. Council, you'll recall that we made that suggestion at our last council meeting, and I know I see our chairwoman Moore from Planning and Zoning. I know Planning and Zoning always encourages interaction, and I know that council, we have encouraged that in the past. So that meeting is scheduled from 5 to 7, and I would encourage folks to participate in that if they are interested. All right, Colin, let's go to the first. On the left-hand side, Boo Bash was really, it was a big hit, and it was such a big hit, it's being reevaluated for next year. The utility department were the villainesses from Disney, and they really went all out. You also see Carmen from the library, and this last picture, I thought this was a pretty inventive way to go through a drive-through trick-or-treat line with the back of the SUV up and had that all decorated, and the kids were able to see everything, and it was a lot of fun. I know that the library was keeping count, and they passed out candy to more than almost 900 kids, well over 850 kids. And I also know, because I was sitting in part of it, that the traffic was really bad. Yes, we know that. There was a part of me that thought, well, no good deed goes unpunished, because I know it was a little bit stressful for some folks with the traffic, but I know the city manager has already shared with me of making some revisions and rethinking some things to help that out for next year. But cute kids, and several parents that said, this is the only thing that we're doing. So we were really glad for that, to be able to provide that. Then in the middle, and council, a couple of you were also at the Women's Leadership Lunch with me, but it is put on by the Family Crisis Center, and it's Inspire, Empower, and Thrive, Our Stories. And one of the speakers was our Assistant Police Chief, Vicki Stefanik, and if you were not there, you missed out on what quite possibly could be the best speech I have ever heard. And Chief Stefanik is with us tonight. She did an outstanding job, and I just would like to give her another round of applause. Made me very proud to have the opportunity to work with her. Then in the upper right-hand corner, last week, I think it was last Wednesday, I was at the Emile Elementary Career Day. I had to get there at 7:30. There's weird things about taking pictures of kids in school. That's why none of the kids are with me. But I saw 250 kids between 8 and 10:15. And sometimes one group was 12, one group was over 50, and it was a short presentation and some rapid fire questions. So I was a little tired by the end of that. And then just below that, hands down, one of the funnest things I did was Bluebonnet Elementary asked me to read a book. And one of my favorite books to read kids, Colin, if you can go down a picture, one of my favorite books is Dr. Seuss. And one of my all-time favorite Dr. Seuss books is Oh, the Places You'll Go. I love, love, love that book. So they sent me an email and they said, if you could just record yourself with a telephone. Well, I'm not smart enough to figure, and they said, be sure and show the kids pictures, and I wasn't sure how to set that up and didn't want to do it 4 times. So I said, Colin, do you think you could help me? And he instantly was like, oh, Mayor, we're going to do better than that. So I was in front of a green screen. It's about 7.5 minutes, and between Colin and Cece, they put me in the book. So there's Dr. Seuss's turning the page. It is so cool, and I will share with y'all that one of the things I thought about was, this is something my grandkids, because at this point with my sons, I may be gone before there are grandkids, and at least this will be left behind for them. And then the other thing I did last week was attend the chamber lunch, and Judge Poppy did a great job of giving us an update on Bastrop County. If you go to the next page, you'll see the planned events, Farm Street Opry, and I'm sure Mayor Pro Tem Nelson's going to talk about his experience there. I wasn't able to attend, but he was the MC, and I'm sure he did a great job, as he always does. On November 5th, I had a BDC workshop in the morning, and I went to a women's self-defense class in the evening that was free and put on by the city's recreation program, and Chairwoman Moore was in there. And those of you who don't know, she's from Louisiana, and let me just put out there, don't mess with her. So she did quite well at the defense class. And then if you go to the next page, I of course have to mention Veterans Day. So honored to serve with Councilmember Peterson and Mayor Pro Tem Nelson, who are both veterans. The city offices will be closed on Thursday. I'll be at a conference. This weekend is the Heroes and Hot Rods car show. There's a drive-through, the cruise-in on Friday and the car show on Saturday. There's the Veterans Day ceremony. I think you guys are getting together at 10:20 and the march starts at 10:30, and there'll be an event. It's at the courthouse this year. That's different than in past years, so people are aware of that. And then there's the red, white, and blue dinner that night. One other thing that's not on here is November 27th is the Small Business Saturday. You'll see a bunch of shop local, shop small, and just remind folks that it's really important that we support our local businesses. And then I want to point out that the December 2nd Farm Street Opry will be hosted by Councilmember Jackson. So I know he's looking forward to that. And that concludes my mayor's report. Speaking of Councilmember Jackson, what do you have for us this evening?
Well, thank you, Mayor. I have just a couple of things. It's been a fun week, or fun 2 weeks since we've last met. I went on a Parks Board tour this past week. The Parks Board went to tour our parks, and it's something we hadn't done in a while. And it was really interesting to see all the new developments at our parks throughout the city. And I'd forgotten that we had as many parks as we did have. And future parks were discussed also, but it was a very good tour, and wanted to thank the staff and the Parks Board for attending that. We had a wrap-up with the Bastrop Music Festival this past week, and the Visit Bastrop and the producers and the people that were responsible for that met, and we've started planning for next year already, so that's looking exciting. I went to the chamber luncheon, and the Cultural Arts Commission, which I'm also a liaison for, had a meeting, and we've got some fun things coming up, combining arts, music, theater, and museums and culture and history. So that'll be coming to council very shortly here. A couple of things that I was going to just mention to the council, just so that they'll know. I was looking at the redistricting, and our city again is split kind of like into several different precincts again. And so I'm hoping that they've got some other options on it. But if you haven't looked at that redistricting map, you might want to look at it, because it's kind of splits our city up again.
Councilmember Jackson, that map was approved Monday at 2 o'clock, so it's final.
I thought they had A and B. Oh, it's been approved?
They recessed and reconvened at 2 o'clock and approved the map.
Okay. Did they do A or B? I'll find out which one they did.
They did C. They came up with.
Okay.
But one of the biggest changes is that Hunter's Crossing is now in Precinct 2.
Right.
So there's, it looks kind of funky, but you know they have to even out the population. But that map's finalized because they've got to get things done so they can get going and print voter registration and know which voters are in which precinct.
Right. I was just, well, I'd gone the week before to that meeting and talked to them, and I didn't know they were going to finalize it. Okay. A couple of other things, and then I'll pass it on. I went to Houston-Tillotson University. I've been working with them for the last few years about having some classes in Bastrop, and they've been wanting to do that. They kind of put it aside, and so now they're gearing up again to try to talk with the economic development and several other people in the city and the county and school district. They'd like to do some classes here in Bastrop, and so we'll be hearing more about that later on. Other than that, just a shout out to, and Councilmember Peterson probably mentioned this later too, but we went to the 60th wedding anniversary party for Don and Adele Thorne, which was really fun. It was good to see them and all the people that were there for that. That's basically all I have for now.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Councilmember Crouch.
I actually don't have anything. I'm looking forward to the car show this weekend. That's one of the favorite things for me since we've moved here to go to, and so I'm looking forward to that, and then hopefully I'll double up on my stuff for next council meeting.
Excellent, excellent. Mayor Pro Tem Nelson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Since you called me out, yes, the Farm Street Opry was last Thursday, and if y'all haven't gone to the Farm Street Opry, y'all really need to go. When we asked how many out-of-towners were there, they far outnumbered our own folks there, and they had a thoroughly good time. They even laughed at some of my jokes, which I found to be quite interesting.
Was it because they hadn't heard them before? I'm sorry. Keep going, keep going.
Is the mayor's report over?
I'm sorry. Yes, mayor's report's over.
Thank you. But it's if y'all get an opportunity to go, it's great music, homegrown talent. Our own Kathy Danielson's daughter performed, and they are outstanding, from country music to good time rock and roll. And they had a gentleman by the name of Bob Apple. If you're a Farron Young fan, he does Farron Young quite proud. So y'all go and see on the December the 2nd when Councilmember Jackson is the MC. I think y'all will enjoy it. That's it.
Thank you so much, Mayor Pro Tem Nelson. Councilmember Rogers.
I think they were handing out laugh cards for those jokes, stand up behind you. Sure. Actually, Mayor, I don't have anything to report this week.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Peterson.
Thank you, Mayor. Excuse me. I don't want to leave out a couple other veterans that's in the House, and that's Assistant Manager Trey Job and Assistant Chief Stefani. Thank y'all for your service. I appreciate all you guys did in service to the United States of America.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Councilmember Peterson. And both Marines. That was a big mistake to leave them out. Thank you for correcting that for me.
No man left behind. Yeah. But with that, I just want to say a couple of words about, there was a funeral on Friday, and I walked around and asked a few people about it, and nobody seems to know or have known General Colin Powell, which was our Secretary of State. And You'd be surprised at the people I asked, and they said, Colin who?
Wow.
Yeah, and it
Wow.
was kind of got to me.
Yeah.
But he was Secretary of State. He served on Joint Chiefs of Staff. He served under 4 different presidents. And matter of fact, he was endorsed by President Obama, former President Obama, to run for president. And his wife said, not only no, but no.
Extra no.
Yeah. So just want to say a few words about that and get people to know and recognize our veterans. These guys serve, put their lives in serving our country. And I just want to keep it alive as best we can.
Thank you very, very much for that.
very
I
welcome.
appreciate that. All right, we're moving on to item 4C, City Manager's Report. Mr. Hoffman.
Thanks, Mayor. I want to start off with a public acknowledgement of our recent decision to promote Jennifer Bills from Assistant Director in the Planning Department to Director. I'm glad Chair Moore is in the audience to hear that. And for the applause. Jennifer has effectively served as the leader of that department for quite some time, and I think all evidence suggests that she's doing a terrific job leading a really devoted and responsive and hardworking team, and really happy to make that announcement. All right, Colin, thank you. So city offices will be closed on Thursday in observance of Veterans Day, and thank you, Mr. Peterson, for those remarks earlier. And thank you, Mayor, for already calling attention to this Veterans Weekend car show and all of those events. This is the flyer that we've been distributing, and Council, you saw this in last Friday's weekly memo as well. Thanks, Colin. And I think you're already aware that there was a bit of a photo opportunity earlier, actually last week. The LCRA did approve a grant to the Bastrop Fire Department, and this funds a mechanical CPR device that paramedics and firefighters can use if they're first on the scene, and can also ride along in the ambulance to the hospital. Kind of a new technology thing, and our fire department saw a benefit and a need, and so submitted that application, and thanks to the LCRA for approving that. We will meet again on December 14th, but before I forget, and there's not a slide on this, I think City Secretary Franklin spoke with each of you, and we're scheduled for Monday, December 13th at 3 o'clock in the afternoon for a workshop session to meet with our consultant, Mr. Joe Esch, who is leading us through that effort to create economic development policy direction. And council members, thank you also for setting aside time starting next week to meet with Mr. Esch as well. Our next council meeting will be in 2 weeks, December 14th. And there are some fairly routine items on that. It is not 2 weeks. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. This is our only council meeting in November, and we'll only have one meeting in December. So we'll meet again in 4 weeks. Thank you. And we'll talk about the strategic planning calendar prepared by CFO Waldron. We will also give you the schedule for meetings the next calendar year. We think we'll be ready to ask you to approve the CMAR contract for the water plant construction project. We will have some this fiscal year budget amendments to deal with unexpected revenues primarily. And if this stays on schedule, and the mayor already made mention of a meeting this coming Thursday between the developers and neighbors surrounding the proposed Farm Street Village project, that second reading of that zoning concept scheme will be on your agenda on the 14th. And I think there's one more slide. A pretty significant development is scheduled to be on the City Council's agenda that day as well. You're being asked to consider an amendment to the Planned Development District zoning for Pecan Park Commercial. There is also amendments to an existing memorandum of understanding between the city and the developer, and council will be asked to consider that evening as well. We'll ask council to approve a contract for the mowing of city properties. And council, you have an opportunity to cast a ballot for the Bastrop Central Appraisal District Board, and that'll be on your agenda in December 14th too. Thank you.
Council, any questions for Mr. Hoffman? All right, seeing none, we're moving on to page 2. There are not any work session briefings this evening, but we do have a staff report. It's item 6A. Council, you have on the dais a document that says 6A. This is a PowerPoint slide that was not in the packet, and they have provided us a copy of it because there are some charts with lots of numbers, and that way you don't have to flip through. For the public, there's a link in the packet to the entirety of the fourth quarter report, and council, you have a printout of the fourth quarter report, which will then complete this year. So I wanted to make sure you knew what was at at your dais, and I also wanted the public to know if they're wanting to follow along, there is a link to the entire fourth quarter report. We're on item 6A, receive presentation on fiscal year 2021 fourth quarterly report. Assistant City Manager.
Yes, good evening, Madam Mayor, Council, and City Manager. Happy to be here this evening to present to you our fourth quarter report. This closes out a full year of quarterly reports that the city team is proud to present to you to show the hard work that has been completed this year and the work that still is yet to be done. So I just kind of, in this report, didn't want to go through every detail because it is a big old report, but I did want to point out some of the big things that I think we need to pay some extra attention to. So I wanted to point out under financial reports that the hotel occupancy fund did not have as big of a shortfall as we projected, which is excellent news. So in April, we were projecting about a $500,000 shortfall in that fund, and we ended with just over $300,000. We saw the trends for the last 2 months going strong, so we're hoping that continues through this first quarter. Wanted to quickly go over our capital improvement projects. As y'all know, we have a lot of them. So our wastewater treatment plant is unfortunately currently delayed. City staff is working through those solutions with contractors, and council, you will receive some additional information confidentially in the future when we are ready to present that. For the wastewater collection system, unfortunately, this project is also delayed. City staff and city attorney are working together to go over our contractor's claims, and again, council will receive additional information about this CIP confidentially in the future. We have the transfer lift station in Force Main. At our request, we asked KSA to review alternate routes for which they have presented us a proposal. So the city is currently reviewing that proposal, and we are hoping that the route will save substantial money, and we're also hoping that any land acquisition will be minimal to none. The River Loop project is currently under construction. It is expected to take 12 to 18 months. We are excited to say that we have incorporated into the design of the sidewalks the Baron of Bastrop manhole covers, which have been in the city's possession for quite some time. They were a gift from the Baron's own family members and came to us all the way from the Netherlands. So they will be part of the River Loop project, and it'll be something that we can highlight. The FM20 elevated storage tank and ground storage tank. The ground storage tank is complete. The elevated storage tank is having minor touch-ups to its painting and coating, and then it will be complete, and they are seeding the grass this month, so we're hoping to close out this project in the month of November. And lastly, the Simsboro Aquifer Water Supply Facilities. The city has received a 90% design submittal, which is under review by city staff. We have put in the application to the Lost Pines Groundwater Conservation District, and we are currently under the 90-day waiting review period. We are hoping construction begins in Q2 of this fiscal year. And I did want to point out that we are going to be using our American Rescue Plan funds for this project. And it was just because this was the next project to come up for the water supply facility. So we're going to go ahead and apply just over $2 million to this one. So some of the items I wanted to point out this evening were just because of the sheer enormity of them. For our under community safety, as you know, the city of Bastrop is making a priority of life safety issues in our community. And I think a testament to the incoming growth in fiscal year 2020, we did just over 2,000 building inspections, and we closed out fiscal year 2021 with just over 12,000 building inspections. So I think the fact that the city went to, under council's guidance, to a contract type system where we can contract out that work and allow that contract to grow or to shrink with our demand was an excellent idea. We are very excited to, for the first time, have Visit Bastrop report in our City of Bastrop quarterly report. So for the Visit Bastrop numbers, I wanted to specifically point out the number of definites they landed. So their goal was to bring in 32 groups to our community, and they fell just a little tad bit short at 28, but they brought in over 5,000 room nights, which is an incredible economic impact to our community. So we are really thankful for them and their hard work and their partnership. They are excited to tell us that their website numbers are close to pre-COVID numbers for the number of hits they're getting. And they're getting a lot of hits for outdoor recreation and downtown. They also, in last fiscal year, had over 200 pieces of positive City of Bastrop, Visit Bastrop branded items that went across the media. So the next slide I wanted to point out was managed growth. As we are all well aware, we have an enormous amount of growth going on in our area. So we ended the year with 69 submitted permits for, let me get it a little bit bigger myself. We had 71 submitted new home construction permits. 69 of them were issued that's 97% of them. In total for the year, we had 418 submitted new home construction permits. So that's 418 new homes in our community. Home remodeling permits, we had 66. New commercial construction, we had 15. Demolition, 11, and 46 plats. For this quarter's numbers, you can see what is outstanding on the side. We had 1 withdrawn, 2 in review, 2 incomplete, 4 needing additional processes. That makes up for the 9 permits that were not issued this quarter. And then we also have that same information for plats as requested by Madam Mayor last quarter. So for our plats, we had 18 submitted with the 7 of them issued. 3 of them were withdrawn, 3 are still in review, 3 were incomplete, and 2 are needing additional processes. I do want to point out that our Q4 numbers for submitted were slightly numbered. They were matching more of our 2020 numbers, but we do think that those numbers will go back up, that's not going to be a trend. Organizational excellence, as council knows, the city undertook the massive task of implementing MyGov this past year. And so this quarter, we completed 640 customer service requests. But for the year, we completed 2,291 customer service requests, and that was out of a total of 2,306, or a 99.3% completion rate.
Assistant Manager Gleason, on the request that completed, this is a snapshot in time. So it doesn't, the reason there's not an explanation of where the other requests are is because they could even be done by the time that we're talking. Is that correct?
Correct. The snapshot's taken the last day of the quarter. So no matter what changes after that, whether things are completed or withdrawn, it won't be reflected on the chart.
Okay, thank you.
So for the Bastrop Public Library, I wanted to include these numbers for 2 points. Number one is just the sheer amount of visitors we get to the library every year is so impressive. This year we had over 51,000 visitors to the City of Bastrop Public Library, which I think is just a testament to the hard work that Bonnie Pearson, our library director, and her staff does day in and day out. It is very impressive, and we are proud for what they do. I also wanted to point out that we ended the year with over $33,000 in non-resident revenue for membership, which was, again, a decision this council made a while back for us to begin collecting non-resident revenue for non-resident library cards because our city residents pay with that through their taxes. I also wanted to point out the City of Bastrop was lucky enough to receive a Hampshire library grant, and we used that to purchase 10 hotspots that can be checked out, but we also used it to put free Wi-Fi in the library parking lot. And so if you look at the bottom chart, it talks about sessions, and those are just random Sundays because the library is not open on Sunday. And you can see between that June 6th date and that July date, we put in the public Wi-Fi in the parking lot, and you could see the enormous jump we had of Wi-Fi usage. So that was an excellent service to our community to have access to Wi-Fi, whether it be for work or school. We are also really proud to have this quarter for the first time our asset groups included in this report. And I foresee this changing slightly as we kind of move through this and kind of get more detailed reporting. I wanted to point out a couple of numbers in looking at this, and I think this was, I'm actually really glad that council requested us to include these in the quarterly reports because I think the numbers showed some real strengths that the different groups have that we can use in our partnership to bring more recognition to all the groups. And so for the Bastrop County Historical Society and Visitor Center, their visitor count is extremely high. Even in COVID times, they had just over 7,000 visitors for the year. And so I think their strength and the opportunity we have is to really capitalize on that for when people are in the building, to get them additional information about our community and our other assets. For the Opera House, I think their strength and the opportunity we have is both through their website visits, which they have over 32,000 per year, and also on their social media reach. So I think if we can utilize both of those things to start supporting the other assets and growing their numbers and the community as a whole, I think there's a real potential there. For the Lost Pines Arts Center, their strength is really their newsletter. So they push out an enormous amount of newsletters, about almost 20,000 for the year. So I think if we can start including some information about our other assets in that newsletter or other programming in our downtown or whatever it may be, I think there's an opportunity to kind of grow everyone across the board. So looking forward to our next asset meeting to really dig in to the numbers and what they mean, and also just kind of connect them with some of the experience that we have here at the city and lessons learned to get them kind of building up those muscles on whether it be social media marketing or newsletter copy. We have some real strong communication team members in the building that can share some knowledge. And lastly, under unique environment, wanted to point out, we're very proud that the city of Bastrop got a Scenic City Gold certification. So the city was previously a bronze certification and moved up to gold. And that is really a testament to the new B3 codes. So Scenic City looks for how you treat your public right-of-way. And so we know, because y'all wrote the codes, that the public right-of-way is a big part of the B3 codes. It really talks about that, how the public and the private realm interact. And so that was a big reason why our numbers shot up for certification, and that's especially around the sign code. So the sign code played a big part in us moving from bronze to gold status. So this is council receiving their award at TML in Houston. And finally, just wanted to take a moment to thank City Council for an incredible year. I think that your city team accomplished a lot. I think there's a lot still left to accomplish that we're continuing to work on. So we wanted to take a moment to thank you for your guidance, to thank you for your clear strategic vision through your 9 focus areas and comprehensive plan. We want to thank our city partners, Visit Bastrop and the EDC, who have also worked hard to make our community a better place. We have our city assets, our community support groups, our nonprofits, and we are just thankful to serve here in a community where so many people want to be part of the village that it takes to build a beautiful place to live.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gleason. I also want to personally thank all of the assets for being here tonight. You were asked to be here in case there were any questions. So Councilmember Rogers?
Well, I did have a question. I believe it was last council meeting, we pulled a report about the Visit Bastrop was given their quarterly report, and then you pulled it, and that's what's inside this report. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And so I asked you to give me a number. Do you remember that, Rebecca?
I spoke to Susan, so Susan's prepared to answer that question about the Music Fest.
Yes, so the council, I had asked them because we pulled that off the agenda. They had given, in that report that we ended up pulling, it showed all the different visitors that we got through the music festivals, and I was curious of how much Visit Bastrop paid one year compared to the other. But I know that that part wasn't in this, how much the music festival brought to town. So I had asked Rebecca to get that number for me.
Thank you, Ms. Smith.
Yes, so for the report, we just have a form that we're plugging and playing, so you're not going to see those numbers typically. But what I did do is prepare a report for each council person, if I'm
Sure.
allowed to bring this up.
Absolutely. Here, hand it to me and then go back to the microphone so we can hear you. Please.
So that will show you the results of the music festival. Basically, what we pay for, which is $75,000 to bring the music festival here, and what we get for that money, which is a turnkey festival. So that includes all of the advertising, the reaches of each of the advertising, what the promoter does, what we do, all the social media advertising. So that's our comprehensive package. He does all the contracting, the pricing for the bands, and all that stuff.
So is that $75,000 the same what we paid the year prior?
Yes, it's been for year 1, 2. Well, we didn't have 2, right? No, we had 2. Yes, every year, and I met with him this year. Other destinations, he is raising the price, and he has committed to, as Councilmember Jackson can also attest to, is committed to not raise our rates in the next year.
Right, that was something that was stressed at the wrap-up meeting, the fact that the costs are going up at a lot of the other venues, but we were able to keep it at the same rate, which is really good.
One of the reasons why is because this has been very successful, and they're also using Bastrop, getting a lot of calls from different communities for referrals.
Well, if you don't mind, City Manager, I would like, since that is such a big event for the city, through Visit Bastrop, I would like to see if you could plug it into this quarterly report, because I just would like to see it year by year as it goes
Okay,
up.
so we'll plug it in the,
Just somehow,
yes.
you have a year to figure it out. So
First quarter, yeah, we'll figure it out.
have till fourth quarter next year. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And thank you for getting this for me.
Yeah. Anything else?
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Council, any other questions for any of our assets? Councilmember Jackson?
I just want to say that, as I said from that meeting, the group is already planning for next year, and I think it's going to be even bigger and better, and using pretty much the same budget as we've had, unless we, make some changes. But it's very promising, and the number of people that were excited about that, and the number of people that are planning to come back, and maybe some expansion of venues and other things. So it was a very productive meeting, and I'm just happy that we have the music festival here in Bastrop. That other people are wanting to now add them, but ours is the premier one, so I think that we'll still get the same number of people or more.
I agree, thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you very much, Ms. Gleason, appreciate it. And just to the public, remind you that there's a link to the entire fourth quarter report, so if there's an area that you're interested in, you can get specific information. All right, council, we're going on to citizen comments. I have 3 citizen comments. The first one is Carl and Ruth Spooner at 1409 Jefferson Street. They did not wish to speak, but their comment was, please do not change the zone from P3 to P4. I would also like to know if a public health clinic is allowed in P3 zone. Cedar Street has become a main artery into and out of our city since the Piney Creek development has come in. This street is heavy traffic street with Mena Elementary and the high schools. Now, with the added vehicles parking on the street day and night, it is impossible to get out of our drive, and it becomes a one-lane street during busy periods of the day. I'm going to give that to the city manager. It wasn't listed on the agenda, so we can't discuss it, but I'll let the city manager contact her. The next person signed up to speak is Jamar Prince. I know Mr. Prince is in the audience, and if you would please state your name and address, and Mayor Pro Tem Nelson will give you 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. My name is Jamar Prince. My address is 204 Waipahoe Drive, Bastrop, Texas. All right. Thank you, Madam Mayor, Council, and City Manager. I'd like to talk to you guys tonight on behalf of Texas Disposal Systems. As I shared, I'm a fellow Bastropian. My wife works in Bastrop ISD as a senior AP English teacher, and I have 3 children who also attend school here in Bastrop. Texas Disposal Systems is a company that is vertically integrated. It was started by 2 brothers and 1 truck in 1976, so we've been around for quite some time. We pride ourselves on being a very innovative company, a local company, and a company that is very visionary. We're here tonight because we would like the opportunity to compete as your contract is coming up in the not too far future. We have trash, recycling, compost, and green waste. And as you guys know, in Bastrop, come flood, fire, or freeze, there's always something. We also have a disaster relief team that I believe sets us apart from many of our competitors. I'd like to talk with you guys at any time in the future, and we'd like to invite you out to our facility in Creedmoor. I think you guys will be very, very impressed. We've recently had Georgetown. Yesterday we had Buda, and there's no reason why you guys shouldn't come out and see what we have to offer. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to speaking with you in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Prince, and thank you for letting me know how to say that, and thank you for sparing me from saying your street name, so I appreciate that. The next person signed up to speak is Sally Burchett. If you would state your name and address, Mayor Pro Tem Nelson will give you 3 minutes to speak.
Sally Burchett, 2003 La Casa Drive, Austin, Texas. Thank you, Madam Mayor and council members and city manager for allowing me this opportunity. I'm here to make an announcement, has been previously stated. We are having a neighborhood meeting for our proposed development, Farm Street Village, this Thursday night. I wanted to say it for the folks at home listening or watching, or people here, to get the word out as much as possible. It is Thursday from 5 to 7 at the Convention Center at 1408 Chestnut, and we welcome everyone and anyone to share their thoughts about a proposed development, and we can answer questions or provide more information if anybody has questions. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Burchett. All right, Madam Secretary, that's all I have. Are there anybody else sign up before the meeting?
No, Mayor.
All right, council, we're done with citizen comments. We're moving to the consent agenda. Does anyone on council want an item pulled from the consent agenda? Does anybody in the audience want anything pulled from the consent agenda? Madam Secretary, if you would please read the consent agenda.
The consent agenda reads as follows. Item 8A, consider action to approve City Council minutes from the October 26, 2021 regular meeting. Item 8B, consider action to approve resolution number R-2021-100 of the City Council of the City of Bastrop approving the 2021 tax roll and tax levy, providing for a repealing clause, and providing for an effective date. Item 8C, consider action to approve the second reading of ordinance number 2021-16 of the City Council of the City of Bastrop, Texas, amending the budget for the fiscal year 2021 in accordance with existing statutory requirements, appropriating the various amounts herein as attached in Exhibit A, repealing all prior ordinances and actions in conflict herewith, and establishing an effective date. This concludes the consent agenda.
Thank you, Madam Secretary.
Move to
Madam
approve
Mayor,
the consent agenda.
I believe Councilmember Jackson was going first. I have a motion from Councilmember Jackson.
Second.
And a second from Mayor Pro Tem Nelson. Is there any further discussion? Madam Secretary, if you'll call the roll.
Councilmember Jackson,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Nelson.
Yes.
Councilmember Crouch,
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers,
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson.
Yes.
Thank you, council. The motion passes unanimously. Council, we're going to be going to item 9A, and then I will also let Ms. Young and Ms. Nash know that when we're done with 9A, we'll be going to 9E. Try to get you guys out of here. Not that you're not welcome to stay, but just in case you would like to leave. We're on 9A, consider action to approve resolution number R 2021-89, approving a third amendment to the Destination and Marketing Services Agreement attached as Exhibit A, authorizing the city manager to execute all necessary documentation, providing for a repealing clause, and establishing an effective date. Ms. Gleason?
Yes, ma'am. Happy to be back in front of you this evening to discuss a third amendment to our Visit Bastrop contract for destination marketing services. We, during our August joint meeting, the Visit Bastrop board asked you to consider the signature of a third amendment. So I wanted to go down that amendment to talk about what those changes are to the agreement they requested, with the major one being an extension of contract. So under scope of services, we previously had a August business plan presentation and proposed budget at a joint meeting. They asked for a little bit more detail to ensure that it was the same day every year. We did add the day before instead of just putting the third Monday to give us the, that was at the request of our attorney, to give us some flexibility if needed. The second change was it states quarterly presentations to council will be made, and we are requesting that instead of quarterly presentations, we will do an April mid-year report to council, which was at the request of council. Their quarterly written report will be part of the city quarterly report. And then it is not part of the contract you see before you this evening. The contract states an October end-of-year report, and that was at the request of Visit Bastrop. When they got into that end-of-year report, they realized it's a lot very similar to our quarterly report. And so they asked for you to please consider, when you make your motion, adding the word optional. That would make it so that way Visit Bastrop and the city can decide together whether that last end-of-year report is satisfactory to stay in the city report, or if we'd like them to do a standalone. It would just give us the flexibility every year to decide both on the city side and on the Visit Bastrop side. The third change is to the term. The term of the contract was October 1st, 2017 through September 30th, 2022. So at the end of this current fiscal year, this contract will be expiring, and they requested us to extend it another 5 years, meaning it would start at the end of this fiscal year when that contract expires and go through September 30th of 2027.
Council, Councilmember Rogers?
On the slide before, on the optional, is that their option to give it to us, or is it our option to hear it?
Ours.
I just want to make sure that was our option. Not by them. Okay. So as long as it's our option to hear it or not. Okay.
And again, just to be clear, that language isn't in the contract. That's before council. And so what Rebecca was suggesting, if council's okay with that being optional, that you would include that in a motion to approve the contract, and then the contract that we would actually execute would add that word.
Or not.
Or
right?
not. It's up to council.
Right.
Absolutely.
So if I move to approve, I'm going to approve the ones that she just presented. Is that correct?
Without the word optional, because she's presenting it, and that's why it's in capital letters. So it's not in the current one.
Well, I move that we approve it with the word option.
Okay.
There you go.
Or with the word my option. Just to make sure everybody understands that it's the council's option to do it.
So I have a motion to approve with the clarity that it is the council's option of the October end-of-year report from Councilmember Rogers.
I'll second.
And a second from Councilmember Peterson. Is there any deliberation or discussion? Councilmember Rogers, I want to mention, I think it's great that they're reporting in April, because that'll be right before the music festival, and then they can report after the music festival. So I think the timing on that works out well. So, all right, Madam Secretary, if you'll call the roll.
Councilmember Rogers?
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson?
Yes.
Councilmember Crouch?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Nelson?
Yes.
Thank you, Council. As promised, we are moving to the bottom of, close to the bottom of page 3, item 9E. And Council, you have at the dais resolution number R 2021-108 that has additional information than what was in your packet, mainly that being Exhibit A with a circle, and we may, through the discussion, decide that we want to put some more clarity around that exhibit. But we are on item 9E, consider action to approve the first reading of resolution number R 2021-108 of the City Council of the City of Bastrop, Texas, approving the expenditure of Bastrop Economic Development Corporation funds for an infrastructure project in an amount not to exceed $1 million, repealing all resolutions in conflict, providing an effective date, and move to include on the December 14th, 21 consent agenda for second reading. And Council, as we have this discussion, you can either make the motion for it to be on the consent agenda, or you can not, but just a reminder that if it is on the consent agenda, it can always be pulled. So we have lots of options. And Interim Director Janora Young is here tonight. Ms. Young.
Madam Mayor, council members, and City Manager, it's a privilege to be here with you tonight. And the information provided tonight is updated from what it was in your packet, as the Mayor stated. What you see on the screen is a concept and a proposal and a request from the EDC Board. What you see is the proposed extension of infrastructure in the business and industrial park, which would be, as we propose it, stage 1 of extending infrastructure throughout the business park to make properties shovel-ready for future projects or potential projects. And what it includes is the extension of Jackson Street across the gas line and the LCRA easement, and then an eastward bound road, the development of a road, which would include your utilities, which you see in the circled area. And the estimated costs are not to exceed $1 million, and it is important to point out and to break out the numbers. The $1 million includes the 2013, what is the remaining amount from the 2013 bond, which I believe was for the Jamco project and for expansion in the Main Street area. And so the other amount, the $800,000, will come back to council in December as a budget amendment request. And this is our effort to make the council aware of what the BEDC is looking at as far as infrastructure improvements in the park and where would be the best place to start. And this proposal would bring us across those utility lines and start to develop out ingress and egress as requested and create connectivity throughout the park. It would also open up 2 and possibly 3 additional properties for development, making them shovel-ready for in the future.
So, Ms. Young, this street doesn't have a name. Is that why it's not referenced?
Correct, because these are proposed streets. This is part of information that will become part of a zoning concept scheme. In order for us to, or for the city to rezone the entire park EC or Employment Center. And so what you see here are strictly lines on a paper at this point and a concept, and with the hopes that council will approve our request so that we can move forward with engineering costs and start the project moving forward to bring infrastructure throughout the industrial park.
But the $1 million is for what's inside the circle, not all of the
That
red
addresses
lines.
only what is inside the circle, yes, ma'am. Thank you for clarifying.
I'll ask the city attorney. I don't want to, I think, I have no problem with what they're proposing. I'm not sure the map, the way it is, do we need to say something like I can't imagine a legal document that says inside the red circle, but there, I want us to have clarity because I don't want someone in the future to come back and say, we already approved money for that. No, we were only doing that one street. Councilmember Rogers?
So how many, like, would it help if there was like so much square footage of street or infrastructure?
Well, at the bottom of it, and it's super hard to read, but it's 5,000, they're estimating it at 5,460 linear feet. And so that's a little bit of clarity to it, but I also know that that's very, very much an estimate.
Everything is, yes, everything is an
And I
estimate
also,
here.
my understanding of the reason the red line is going north through that cul-de-sac shown at the end of Jackson is because the cul-de-sac doesn't exist.
Correct.
So there's going to definitely have to be some utilities and some infrastructure, and so this appears to me to be an estimate of about where the pavement ends.
Yes.
The intention is that when this project is completed, someone can travel south on Jackson, turn east on a street that doesn't have a name yet, and go just over a mile. And council, it's important, and you are aware, and it is public information, that the property north of this line is Mocha Ventures. So that's part of what the EDC is trying to do. That's very well known. Councilmember Jackson?
I just had a question about the red lines too. So is Technology Drive, I mean, I see the red line, it's there. Is that going to continue to be Technology Drive on the, since we have the little red lines there, or? Is that what is that my understanding?
I believe it's an extension of Technology Drive. Yes.
So
that would be proposed at a later time. That would be another stage in the development, yes, sir.
Okay, so Jackson Street and Technology Drive would be extended, and then there's the other places, the unnamed or unknown street now, since it hasn't been developed, correct?
That is correct. They have not. These are to help us develop north, south, and east-west ingress and egress into and out of the park.
Okay.
And council, that east-west road that is south of the cul-de-sac of Jackson, the reason that it's drawn there is because it's just north of the substation that's there, and BEDC owns that lot.
I just wanted to be clear about it, so thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Councilmember Jackson. Councilmember Rogers, I wanted to make sure you were done.
Yeah, that's just a lot of money for just that little circle.
It is my understanding, and we can double-check the wording in the resolution, that this is an estimate. That's why it's a not to exceed, and it is engineering design, and it's all of the utilities and the roadway.
Oh, and the design
And
the
it'll have
roadway.
to be bid, so, correct?
Well,
Construction drawings that'll go out to bid to contractors?
Yes.
Okay, so it's the design and the construction of it. Okay.
That is is that your understanding, Ms. Young?
Well, the EDC does not have to go out for bids. We can pick, we don't fall into the same statutes that the city does, and so therefore we are not required to go out for bids. If that is the board's pleasure and the council's pleasure, we can do that, but it is not required of us by law.
Okay, I think we've
Yeah, that
done
was
that
the point.
before.
Yeah.
And Councilmember Rogers was on the EDC board for a while, so I think that's why she's,
But that includes the design and the construction of,
Yeah, it include, yes, that is the estimate to include all of the above. And I think it's important to state that the city would more than likely be the project manager for this project because the EDC is not equipped to do that. Is that correct, Mr. City Manager?
That certainly has been what we've discussed.
Yes.
yeah, I would think, council, it would be, since the city would be taking over that asset. Councilmember Jackson's like, why are we talking about that? That's what I'm reading in your face. Is that correct?
No, I thought you were going to say that if we're going to take over, that bidding would be required or something.
Oh, no, since we're going to take over maintenance of that street, we would normally do the construction management for it. That was the point. Councilmember Crouch?
I would, a couple of things. One, I agree with you that maybe we should provide a little more detail than the red circle and the estimated roadway thing in the exhibit. And then I would recommend that it goes out to bid, not just awarded to somebody.
Thank you, Councilmember Crouch. Councilmember Jackson?
That's what I would recommend also. If we're going to do the management of it, I think it should definitely go out especially for that amount of money.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I'm on board with the other council members, but just to throw out a figure of $1 million on a project, I think it's a small project. I think we need to look at it a little bit closer.
Okay, Councilmember Peterson, so are you wanting to ask them more questions tonight, or what do you want me to do about that?
I just want to give it some more thought and get an estimate on this instead of just say, well, this project's going to cost $1 million.
Okay, and Ms. Young, do you want to address how you guys came up with your budget?
We have spoken with engineers, we've had conversations with city staff, and these are estimates, strictly estimates, and the longer I live, the list of what I'm not is growing longer, and I'm not an engineer, so that is why we couched the phrase, or the request, not to exceed $1 million, because through our conversations, these are the numbers that were estimated, and I will say, in my conversations with engineers, it is very difficult at this time to estimate because of supply chain and labor issues, and construction companies are reluctant at some point to bid some projects because of those time frames, and it's taking so long to get supplies. So that was one of the things that we looked at in approaching council at this time to address this now, to allow us to actually bring engineers on, hire the engineers, and be able to give you more specific costs in the future.
Assistant City Manager Joe, would you like to take a stab at answering Councilmember Peterson's question, just because you're seeing some of the construction? Did you help provide some? She mentioned city staff, and I assume she spoke with you.
Yeah, we had some discussion. I actually reached out to the city engineer. A good number generally was about $500 linear foot for street construction, especially something this wide. And he actually advised me to move it up a little bit more. So he put it at 750 and then added another 150 for the utility work, a linear foot, and that's how we came up with the estimate.
And if I might add, I think given where we are in this project, the level of
Detail.
engineering work we've done is appropriate. As Ms. Young indicated, the next step would be to select an engineer. And then, as per normal, as we move through the design process, we'll be able to provide more refined and more accurate, with less margin of error, construction estimates. And what council's being asked to approve tonight is a starting point with emphasis on the not to exceed amount part of it. And we're happy to keep council informed as we go. On the comments about how the project is managed and whether or not we get bids, just to clarify, we're talking about both design and construction. We're not required to get bids either for design, and I think we can expedite the selection of a design professional here pretty soon.
Mr. Hoffman, I'm sorry for interrupting you. I believe the engineer's been selected. Didn't BDC pick Doucette?
We have been working with Doucette, yes.
Okay. Do you have a contract for the design?
We do not have a contract.
That's what I thought.
Okay, I got you.
But the point is still the same. And there is some sense of urgency here to proceed, given all the things we've been discussing with the potential property owner. And on the comments earlier about the construction, I tend to agree. If the city's going to manage the project, we should go through the process of soliciting bids once we get construction-ready documents. And that shouldn't be overall a big delay in the process.
Councilmember Jackson?
I was just going to say, I mean, considering the supply chain information and all of that, and this says not to exceed, I mean, if the bid comes in much higher or something like that, of course, we've already stated that it's not to exceed $1 million, so I'm happy to move forward with it at this point after the discussion we've had so far.
Councilmember Crouch?
I didn't see the timeline on here for when the road was supposed to be started and completed.
I think that's like cart and horse. They're just.
Yeah. But it would make a difference in maybe the amount of money that you're asking for. If it's going to be a long way out, then I don't see material costs or anything like that coming down. So there's no timeline on it right now.
We would like to move forward as quickly as possible. We do have interest, or as the mayor pointed out, and it is common knowledge and out in the public, we do have a project in the northern triangle of that map, which is the MOCA project, and we would like to move forward based on the information that I've shared as far as supply chain, because we do not anticipate that cost will come down anytime soon. In fact, we anticipate that they may go up.
Yeah, and that's kind of what Trey was saying. I think they included fluff in their price. And then, have you already got a geotechnical report for it, or is that part of the engineering?
They've got some geotech information in the BDC, but that'll be.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure.
To Ms. Young's point, it's really important to note that MOCA Ventures, that council had approved what BEDC brought to us, that property's landlocked without this improvement. So that's why Ms. Young's saying it's important to move quickly. Mayor Pro Tem Nelson?
You know, I think one of the things we need to recognize, this is a cap, this is the ceiling, not the floor, and the infrastructure is targeted for specific purposes. And I think it's something that is, as a project moves along, or as a process moves along, there will be other opportunities for us to approve and disapprove any of the projects we feel there's going to be cost overruns. I think we're really early to make a determination of what the cost, what the timeline is going to be until we actually have an engineering engineering estimated costs. With that, I move to approve.
Okay. On your move to approve, are you satisfied with Exhibit A?
I am. Thank you for bringing that up. I'd like to have a little bit more clarity on what the red circle entails.
Mr. City Attorney, do you have a suggestion?
Certainly, Mayor and Council. I think that the resolution is fine as written. You can have the motion to approve it with a modified Exhibit A that provides a little more specificity on the project and perhaps an arrow, because I can see where there could be some confusion. But you can go ahead and pass it tonight if you choose to do so, with the instructions that the exhibit be updated to reflect more specificity as discussed tonight.
And that'll allow us to keep with the timeline
Yes,
and have
ma'am.
the second reading on the
Yes.
14th.
And we will be happy to do that as quickly as possible.
And I'd also like to say as part of the motion, that it not be on the consent agenda due to the discussion tonight, so we can continue discussion and ensure that we have the clarity that's needed.
Okay, I have a motion from Mayor Pro Tem Nelson that Resolution 2021-108 be placed on the regular agenda for December 14th with a modified and clarified Exhibit A.
Second.
And I have a second from Councilmember Jackson. Is there further discussion? Madam Secretary, if you'll call the roll.
Mayor Pro Tem Nelson.
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson.
Yes.
Councilmember Crouch.
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers.
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Young. I am very excited that we are moving towards shovel-ready property. I think
Thank you,
that
Mayor
is-
and Council, and I would like to thank Assistant City Manager Job for his assistance.
And thank you, Chair Nash, for spending some time with us this evening. It's always good to see you. All right, Council, we're going back to item 9B, which reads as follow. Consider action to approve Resolution R 2021-105 of the City Council of the City of Bastrop, approving the adoption of the Texas Opioid Abatement Fund Council and settlement allocation attached as Exhibit A, providing for a repealing clause and providing for an effective date. Ms. Waldron.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So I have a few highlights. The agenda packet included a lot of information. You can thank your attorney for all of that backup. And so I'm just going to hit a few highlights. If you have legal questions about the settlement, I am going to defer to Mr. Borquez. But basically, a lawsuit was filed by Texas, and it had to do with drug manufacturers violating state law. And so there was a settlement that came down, $26 billion settlement paid over 20 years, $1.5 billion estimated Texas portion. What this means to us, in the table, we found that the initial payout was around $46,000. I think you had $56,000, so somewhere in between there, the city would be receiving the first payment. If you decide to participate in passing this resolution and being a part of this Texas term sheet and the allocation that came with it. Future funding would depend on programs or projects that the city decided that they wanted to do, and you would actually submit for those funds. And if I was reading this correctly, there's about a little over $50,000 available for the second payment, but it's split over multiple counties. So I think there was like 3 or 4 counties. So if you have any questions,
You said
I will try
50,000, I'm sorry, you said 50,000, you mean 50 million divided between the 6 counties listed here?
Yeah, I think there's a decimal in the wrong place.
oh, yes.
This is a significant difference.
I read it as 50 million and it's split between 6 counties.
Okay. I copied and pasted, but I could have.
Well, that doesn't make sense, 'cause do you guys think we're getting 4.6 million?
No,
The first
the simple
payment-
fact is 46,000 is allocated directly to the city of Bastrop.
That
and
is
the fi- and the-
specific, yeah.
And the 50 million is divided between 6 counties. That's
And
a
it's-
significant amount of money, unless it's 50,000, then it's like, well, okay.
I'm scanning very quickly.
10,000
Mr.
or 10
Borquez?
The $46,000 figure is accurate for Bastrop's portion, the city of Bastrop's allocation under this first phase.
And the 50 million
You
is
need to turn on
correct.
your mic if you're.
And the 50 million is the correct number for the 6 counties.
Okay.
And
But it's only with submitted programs, so you
Right.
would have to submit a program or a project. And
So
they
the
would have
50
to
million
approve
is
it.
the first and second tranche?
The second.
Oh, the second only. Gotcha. Okay.
46,000 is the first
Right.
tranche that comes without programmatic strings, if you will.
Right.
Correct. Nothing is required of the city of Bastrop in order to qualify for this first phase of funding, and the money is not limited. The state of Texas is hoping that all political subdivisions, or as many as possible, sign up for this first phase, because the more that sign up for this first phase, the larger the pot of money available in the second phase. This is all about limiting exposure for the pharmaceutical companies and their marketing firms. They would rather not have these lawsuits continue in perpetuity, so the more that settle, the bigger the payoff at this point. The only downside that I've identified for you entering into this settlement is it would preclude you from bringing your own lawsuit against these companies. You can certainly do that. I would recommend executive session if you wanted to confer about such things. But at this point, this is allocated to us without us having spent any resources in bringing our own lawsuit or joining in any of the other larger lawsuits.
And Mr. Attorney, that money would go to our general fund with this
first
first
phase.
46 goes to the general fund with no strings attached.
Correct. The second phase, it will be more programmatic in that we need to have projects that deal more directly with the consequences of the opioid addiction and caring for that population.
Thank you for that clarity. Councilmember Crouch?
And the second round is for the county, not necessarily the city, correct? The
No.
50 million?
The city could potentially qualify for the second round as well, depending on what programs and services that we would have to offer.
Mayor Pro Tem Nelson?
So, Mr. City Attorney, so the second phase of money, that is going to be allocated to the region, or is it going to be allocated to each individual county within that region based upon some criteria yet unknown?
My understanding, Mayor Pro Tem, is that it also will be allocated by region and then broken down from there.
And you have to submit projects for approval.
That's what I anticipate.
Sure. Thank you, sir.
Councilmember Crouch?
One more. So if it's allocated per county, is the county the one doing the application for that and approving that, or is the city involved, or is it a combination of city and county both?
My understanding, Councilman Crouch, is that's primarily the state that's handling that, and then it funnels down to those regions that get funneled down to the counties and cities.
Okay, thanks.
Councilmember Rogers?
Can I move to approve?
I have a motion to approve from Councilmember Rogers
Second?
and a second from Councilmember Jackson. Is there any further discussion? Madam Secretary, if you'll call the roll.
Councilmember Rogers?
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson?
Yes.
Councilmember Crouch?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Nelson?
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much, and thank you, Mr. Borquez, for the clarity. It was helpful. Moving on to item 9C, consider action to approve resolution number R 2021-107 of the City Council of the City of Bastrop, Texas, approving an annual task order with MWM Design Group to provide the services of city engineer amount of $117,420 attached in Exhibit A, authorizing the city manager to execute all necessary documents, providing for a repealing clause and establishing an effective date. Hi, Fabiola.
Hey, good evening. So what I have in front of you tonight is for your consideration and approval is a task order of an existing contract that the city has with MWM Design Group. As you know, the services of city engineer have been provided by MWM Design Group since 2019. Tony Buonadono serves as the city engineer, providing service such as, providing services such as civil engineering, plan review, and also project management. He's currently managing the River Loop Sidewalk project and also the FM 16-inch water line project. By outsourcing these services, they can be scalable depending on the level of after needed each month. And some of these services have been absorbed by my position. And just as a note, previously a task order was approximately $170,000. This task order is considerably smaller and approximately $117,000. This will be the third year that we'll be working with MWN, and we are happy with their work. So, and I may take any questions you might have at this time.
Council, any questions? Councilmember Rogers?
So we've had a contract with them before, so now we're downscaling some of it because now we're taking some of the work in-house. Was that my understanding?
Yes.
Okay.
Any further discussion or questions?
Just move for approval.
I have a motion to approve from Councilmember Peterson.
Second.
And a second from Mayor Pro Tem Nelson. Is there any further discussion? Madam Secretary, if you'll call the roll.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Nelson?
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson?
Yes.
Councilmember Crouch?
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Good job. All right, council, our last item for consideration, item 9D, consider action to approve resolution number R 2021-106 of the City Council of the City of Bastrop, Texas, approving an interlocal agreement for operation and maintenance of Bastrop County Household Hazardous Waste Facility between the City of Bastrop and Bastrop County as attached as Exhibit A, authorizing the city manager to execute all necessary documents, providing for a repealing clause, and providing an effective date. Ms. Franklin.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This item is an interlocal agreement between the City of Bastrop and the County of Bastrop to maintain, dispose of, and store household hazardous waste. It's for a facility to do these things, and we would be entering into a local agreement with Bastrop County. There would also be Lee County, the City of Smithville as well, with a separate agreement with the county. So I'll be happy to take any questions.
Have we not had an ILA for this before?
I'm sorry, what? Mayor?
Did we have an ILA before?
It's my
We've
understanding
had-
we have. Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, so
We've
it's
had it
just an
before.
annual?
This is a,
It's an annual renewal.
Yeah. Council, you guys have heard me talk about the vouchers and all of that. This is where the Bastrop Beige, it's $5,000 a year, and the city manager and I kind of tag team on the Executive Oversight Committee to help set the dates and be participants in how the money is spent. I think it's a great project that we do across the county for our citizens. Councilmember Rogers?
I move to approve.
I have a motion to approve from
Second.
Councilmember Rogers and a second from Councilmember Peterson. Is there any further discussion? Rogers and Peterson. Madam Secretary, if you will call the roll.
Councilmember Rogers?
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson?
Yes.
Councilmember Crouch?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Nelson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. She's doing double duty, trying to present and call roll at the same time. All right, council, we're on the bottom of page 3. It is 7:58. Councilmember Peterson?
Make a motion to adjourn.
I have a motion to
Second.
adjourn from Councilmember Peterson.
A second.
And a second from Councilmember Rogers. It is 7:58. We are adjourned. Please be safe this evening, and happy Thanksgiving. See you in December, and we'll see you this weekend. Good night.